All right, so I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is not a super intriguing matchup this week as the Browns head into Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. But one question does remain. With all of the players out, with the weird situation that this week has been for not only the Browns, but countless other NFL teams, and also with the Titans game on the horizon for a Cleveland Browns team, you have to ask yourself, is this a trap game, and is Jacksonville capable of capitalizing on it? Well, let's talk about it. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the Patreon Dog Check tier members, and it starts with Michael Matique, Greg Ealer, Seth Harrison, Corporal, Nick Lopez, Nick Nasty, Mandela Moore, the only Browns fan in Wisconsin, Batman, Jake Phillips, Russ Shear, Barack Kumar, John Alvert, Masayua, Buds of Roland, Ethan Rindauer, James Nemo, Mac House, Reeb Herps, Justin Cole, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Timothy McClure, Keith Anderson, Joshua Steele, Sean Barron, Goggles Pisano, Dom Gazzulo, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Anthony Latham, Christian, Matt Bond, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Soul Train, Charles Work, Dan in West Texas, Billy, Michael Hodenack, Jared Austin, Patrick F. Austin Z, Mark Burnett, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, IT Rex, Austin Bolin, Jesus Serrano, Joshua Paulus, Chris Foams, the Picktown Browns backers, Mark Kahn, Max Al Dojo, Beerman 069, Seth Miller, and CK. Thank you, all of you guys who are supporting. Also, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, not just so you can get more content throughout the week, but also so you can be notified when I go live after the Browns game this Sunday. So if you don't want to miss that live coverage, please hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on a single thing. And also, I can't forget, I got to get the Patreon members the dog check. Okay, so just like I said in the intro, this Jaguars team really doesn't match up well with this Cleveland Browns team. Most of the Jaguars' weaknesses, which are at league bottom level, are where the Browns have league topping strengths. And the Jaguars, unfortunately, I don't think on offense have enough firepower to attack where Cleveland's defense has the weak spots. And again, if you want to beat Cleveland, there's some specific things that you need to do. I just don't see those things there for the Jaguars. That being said, let me break down the defensive side of the ball of this matchup for the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Jaguars do have one strength. They can definitely run the football. If you look at their lone win versus Indy, they use that along with a short passing game to play ball control and really squeeze that win from Indianapolis, who is one of the NFL's top teams. So now, to the Jaguars' credit and to their benefit this week, the Browns have been inconsistent versus the run. Sometimes they are some of the best run stuffing defensive lines in all of football, like they did in Indy and Philly. And other times they're just awful. Just see the Raiders game or the Pittsburgh game to see where the Browns are. The Jaguars coming into this game, James Robinson, the starting running back for the Jaguars, he is the third leading rusher in the NFL with 762 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. So that's a good stat line. The touchdowns are a little low for a feature running back that gets as many attempts as he does, but still good numbers there on yard per carry and in the rushing number, but not dominant numbers. It's kind of shocking to see that that's top 3, and that has a lot to do with him getting a ton of attempts. No Miles and no Denzel Ward will definitely hurt the run game as well. I know with no Denzel Ward, we're going to talk about the passing game, but I don't know how much that's going to be effective with what the Jaguars got going on in the passing situation, but I do know that no Ward and no Miles is definitely going to hurt the run game. Denzel Ward does a lot on the outside with his ability and willingness to get physical that really do benefit the Browns' ability to stop the run. Without Denzel Ward, there's going to be some issues there when it comes to stretch runs. And we know with the Cleveland Browns, their ability to stop the inside run, well, that's going to be kind of reliant on Larry Ogunjobi because that seems to be the metric that things go by. If it's not Myles Garrett, it's definitely Larry Ogunjobi that's the deciding factor when it comes to how good the Browns' run defense will be, especially on the interior. Larry Ogunjobi is somebody who played well to start the season, had some bad games after he suffered an abdominal injury, came back from that injury, and then after the bye week, he seems to be playing much better. better, so I don't know if he's just healthy now. I don't know what's the case with him, but if he plays like he did the last few weeks, he will be good. The Browns will be able to stop the run, but if he doesn't, then the Browns are going to have issues stopping the run. Also, the Jaguars don't have a terrible offensive line. That's with the asterisks because Cam Robinson has not practiced this week. Now, I'm recording this video on Wednesday, so by Thursday, he could be practicing, but if that's not the case, then that's going to be a serious problem for Jacksonville. So those are the strengths for Jacksonville coming into this game offensively versus this Browns defense. Other than running the ball, they have some decent wide receivers, but again, DJ Shark has not practiced all week. Other than that, they have problems. Quarterback play has been inconsistent. They started with Gardner Minshew, who's been decent. He got injured. They had to go to Jake Luton. Now they're going to Matt Glennon. It's not a great situation quarterback-wise. Also, as I mentioned, the wide receivers aren't as healthy as they were at the beginning of the season, which is also contributing to some more problems on the offensive side of the ball for this Jacksonville team. I think this week, them going with Matt Glennon, there's reason to be concerned because the Browns secondary isn't great and they're going to be out their best player. But also a guy like Matt Glennon who can't move around a lot, I think the Browns have a better chance at stopping him than somebody like a Gardner Minshew who can move around and cause more problems and kind of kill you with the short stuff. I don't know if Matt Glennon's going to be able to do it at the same level here. Also, another issue with the Jaguars is that they turn the ball over a lot. And the Browns, they also get a lot of turnovers. So again, an area where things aren't really matching up really well for Jacksonville. The Jags are tied for the 7th highest turnover percentage in the NFL. The Browns are tied for 3rd most takeaways in the NFL. So that's a contrast that does not favor Jacksonville remotely. Also, the Browns are really good at scoring on these takeaways. And if they get takeaways, they usually dominate time of possession. And if the Browns dominate time of possession, that's pretty much it for you when you're playing the Cleveland Browns and you're not a team that's on par with the talent that the Cleveland Browns have, like a Tennessee. So also you add into that pile that Jacksonville's the 9th most penalized team in football. They're 28th in scoring percentage. And also just to add on top of the time of possession thing that I was talking about, when they don't turn the ball over, they still have the 25th lowest drive time in football. So the amount of time for their average drive that they take off the clock is the 25th lowest in the NFL. And when it comes to beating the Browns, any team that's beaten the Browns this year, all 3 of them, whenever they have beaten them, whenever the Browns lose, it's usually because they lose that battle on time of possession. It's how the Raiders beat the Browns. And now, if you haven't noticed, up until this point, I really haven't talked about any individual matchups with this defense going against this Jaguars offense. And normally I do like to go into that. But the reason I'm not is because the problems with Jacksonville are structural and personnel based. And that makes it so that the personnel matchups are largely irrelevant because the issues that the Jaguars have are going to be there regardless of who they're playing or who's going to be able to exploit it the best. It just so happens that the Browns' issues or strengths that are more structural line up really well and really bad for Jacksonville on the opposite side of the ball. One of the biggest examples of this is that, there's going to be no Myles Garrett. There's going to be no Denzel Ward. That's a guarantee. Those 2 players aren't playing, and those are absolutely the 2 best players by far on this Cleveland Browns defense. But the question with those 2 being out isn't how will Jacksonville take advantage of it. It's how much can they really take advantage of it without their starting quarterback. Maybe they're out their left tackle in Cam Robinson and also out DJ Shark. How are they going to really take advantage of that when they don't have so many of their starting pieces in the areas that would be required to take advantage of it? That's a big question for Jacksonville this week. All of these things are unfavorable to Jacksonville in a way that it would make it hard to just do it individually, player by player, without missing the bigger picture with what's going on in this matchup. So for this matchup on the defensive side of the ball for the Browns, I see in Jacksonville a team that best case scenario might be able to run the ball and might be able to have some intermediate passing success. But I also see a team that's going to struggle once the field gets more condensed as they continue to drive down the field, which will lead to more turnovers and less scoring. Now, if you thought the issues on the Jaguars offense was a mess, I would argue that the defense is a little bit bigger of a mess, because upon first glance, you might just assume that they actually match up well with this Browns passing attack. They have Miles Jack and Jared Wilson, who are good coverage players, specifically good coverage players at the linebacker and safety position, which is really good for stopping some of the play action stuff that the Cleveland Browns do. But the biggest problem Jacksonville has is that it's largely irrelevant how good Miles Jack and Jared Wilson are, because the problem with their defense is that it's unbalanced when it comes to coverage ability. Because on the other half of the field, you have Joe Schobert, who's not a great coverage linebacker or tackler, and we'll get into why that's important later on. And we know this because we've had Joe, and we like Joe, but we know what he's not good at and what he is good at. And also they have Trey Harden, who's been awful when it comes to coverage. Add this with the fact that the Browns offense is built in a way to specifically be able to flip on the preferable side on any given play with the play action fake boots and rollouts that the Browns like to do, and not only flip a play to the side they want, but heavily rotate that play to the point to where the guys on the other side of the field are, again, largely irrelevant. That's why these boots and all these things work in this offense, because you can kind of cater it to attack the side of the field that you want to attack, so you can avoid the players that you don't, unless they're running like a cover one and they got Earl Thomas in his prime. But they don't have Earl Thomas in his prime, so the Browns are going to be able to set up well to attack this defense. And also, that's not even the biggest thing that the Jacksonville Jaguars coaching staff should be worried about. The biggest thing they should be worried about is their ability to stop the run, because I would be concerned if I were Jacksonville. Now, they have good run stoppers at the linebacker position. They have decent safeties when it comes to run stopping, but their defensive linemen and Tavon Bryant, Davon Hamilton, Adam Gates, and Josh Allen have just been terrible against the runs. And these are the guys who are getting the most run defense snaps on the team. They're all putting up PFF grades in the 50s. And some teams that wouldn't matter as much against some schemes. But with the Browns scheme specifically, and with the personnel that they have at the running back position, that's a big deal, because the only teams that I have seen be able to stop this Browns run game for a sustained amount of time, I'm talking 2 or more quarters, I'm not even talking about a full game. The teams that have been able to do that are the teams with really impressive, really stout defensive lines. Even Philly, right? Philly is a team that's not good overall, but their one strength is their defensive line, and that helped them stay in that game against Cleveland for a long time because they could stop the run. And if you can play good on the defensive line, you can do damage against this run game of the Cleveland Browns, because the way it's designed, that's just where the holes are. So again, yeah, sure, your linebackers are good at stopping the run, but also your best run defender from your linebacking position is Joe Schobert. Now, what do we know about Joe Schobert here in Cleveland? Again, not the best coverage linebacker and not the most consistent tackler. He'll have streaks of being a really good tackler and streaks of being an awful tackler. And that's not going to be helpful against Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, who break the most tackles in the NFL as a running back tandem. Well, also, when you look at this defensive line, that's not a great run-stopping defensive line, and then you put them against the Browns offensive line, which is the best run blocking offensive line in football, against the best running tandem in football, and against maybe the best running back in football, and also the running back that's most well suited to be able to take advantages of the holes that you have on defense. It's not looking good. The teams that have been able to stop the Browns rushing attack are the teams with exceptional defensive lines. I'm talking about Baltimore before Calais Campbell got injured. I'm talking about Pittsburgh, who might have the best defensive line in like recent NFL history. I'm talking about Philadelphia, who has the best pass rush in football. And I'm talking about Indianapolis, who also has one of the better defensive lines in football right now. Unless you have that, you're not really going to shut down the run like those teams were able to do for a quarter or two. And that's a huge concern for Jacksonville, because, again, that means time of possession is going to be a problem. This isn't an offense that they have in Jacksonville that's necessarily explosive. I just see a lot of problems for this Jacksonville team going up against a good Browns team. Also, another problem for Jacksonville when we go back to the passing game is that they give up a lot of chunk plays. They are the second team when it comes to net passing yards completed per attempt. So again, that suggests that they get these chunk plays given up all the time. The Browns are the number one in completed air yards per completion, which suggests that they're really good at getting these chunk plays. And if you've seen the Browns play action plays, they're really good at getting those 15, 20-yard chunks. Baker Mayfield might not have a great completion percentage at the end of the game, but he'll have like 12 completions for like 200-something yards because those completions aren't just quick dumps. You know, they're long throws. So that's another problem for Jacksonville that doesn't match up well for them. And that's kind of the story of the game as I get into the final take. Look, as a Browns fan, whenever something looks like it's going to be going good for the Browns, it's almost my first instinct to be extremely cautious about the situation. I know the hard way that there's no such thing as a free win in the NFL. But the more I dig deeper into this matchup, the more I look at it with a critical eye and not just as a fan, the more unlikely it is that I see Jacksonville being able to win. They just don't have enough matchups that match up favorably. Like, they might have one in the running game, but again, it's not like the Browns are awful when it comes to stopping the run. They just have not been consistent. They've been really good in some games, really bad in others. So even the one thing they might have is not really a guarantee. The Browns' weakness is their ability to cover wide receivers down the field, but you might not have DJ Shark. You're not going to have Gardner Minshew. You're not even going to have Jake Luton. You're going to be throwing Matt Glennon out there. And the Browns' offense is really good at running the ball and getting chunk plays, something that the Jaguars just aren't good at doing either way. Now, yes, is it possible the Browns can lose? Any team can lose any game on any given Sunday, right? It's the old cliche. Of course, it's possible. I think it would require an interception explosion from Baker Mayfield and also one of Matt Glennon's best games in his career. And as a Browns fan, that's a nightmare that never really leaves your consciousness because you always feel like these things are possible. But I do have to admit, it is rather unlikely. I do think the Browns are going to be able to win this game. So hopefully that is the case, but I do see it as very likely. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think this is likely? Do you not think it's likely? Let me know down there. And again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.